Hi everyone, thank you so much for tuning into my tarot channel today. I have a message for you. My name's Paulina and today I'm gonna do a Celtic cross. Maybe I'll try to include a picture of it at the end, but it's gonna be on my lap here, so I'll just lift up the cards, but it is in a formation if you want to look it up, and each position means something. So the current state is the 10 of Pentacles reversed. You may be experiencing adverse financial times or just like unrest within the home environment. What's crossing you is King of Cups. There may be like, you know, a creative or caring individual that comes into your life, and or this could be connecting with sort of the masculine creativity within, like taking charge of our creativity in a sort of more external way, maybe putting yourself out there in some way. What's at the head of the reading, or the top of the reading, is Five of Swords. There could be some like discord like in your mind about, like, I'm getting an energy of someone who like just all their boundaries have changed, and like probably because of life circumstances when I look at your energy, person tuning in, and it's actually shocking people around you, but like this is actually just how things are now in your mind because you've had to change how you operate, because I'm seeing that you've been in with the Five of Swords, some survival situation. This is about sort of the defeat of a battle, but I also see it as a fight for a battle. You've been in like a survival situation that's on your mind, and maybe others have been coming at you, and so you're kind of like in a don't F with me place, it seems like. And the distant past, or the root of the situation, is you were in a time of suspension or rest where maybe you were like not able to process a lot of the things that happened because your brain like put you in a holding pattern to like get through, which is something that is real. The recent past is the Death card reversed. So, I just had some trouble breathing there. I feel like you have like this actually huge awakening coming for you, or you have had an awakening because you've left something behind, and or someone. This could be people or situations. So the Death card is not a literal death. It could be, but it usually means the death of something that brings something new, especially reversed. I like to read that actually positively, that you're being sort of sprung out of a death into a rebirth. And the future is the Magician reversed. In the future, you're actually going to have some extreme power, is how I'm reading the reversal here. Instead of, some people might read the reversal negative. I think you're connecting with some innate extreme power, and like looking at what tools you have and just actually changing how you think. Your mindset about what could happen is changing. Instead, I'm seeing someone who used to say, well, what's the point of trying that? That would never happen. I'm hearing in my mind, you missed 100 of the shots you don't take, which is a Wayne Gretzky quote from hockey. So I'll say it again, you missed 100% of the shots that you don't take. So you're taking some shots, I'm feeling, okay, in the future, and good for you. And yeah, some of them might not work out, and you may still be struggling with what's happening, but you're taking some shots, and it's really, it's actually putting you in a different energy of, I can handle this, I can do anything, which is really good. Current state is Temperance reversed. Maybe like legal situations, or like situations with maybe married people, or like a court, like or a church, you know, that like maybe you come from a religious upbringing, and it's like sort of, I guess that just came through. That could be one meaning for this card, but if I like to think, however, you know, every card has multiple readings in terms of how you place it, but in this reading, I like to think maybe the current state is like you're feeling like hindered actually, and like afraid to make moves in your life because of some authoritative thing, which could just be in your mind. It could just be like an abusive, like you were raised with like an abusive religious doctrine environment. This is about a choice point. It's about, one is sort of death and suffering and pain and loss, and one is like hope and fortune and good things coming. And so I feel like you're in an environment of like choice, and in an environment where you're in a liminal space, you're in between. The inner thoughts and fears are poverty, and really just like worry about, so again, just survival fears. I'm getting a lot. There may have been something that happened that like actually maybe someone threatened your life, or maybe like there was actually a situation where there was fear of your life. And so I'm just getting a lot of that theme here in the reading. Like you've been in fight or flight, and maybe you're just now coming out of it. Something that actually happens when we do come out of fight or flight is, well, several things happen, but the nervous system can relax and process things differently. So overall, I'm seeing you're incredibly strong. You're an incredibly strong person. You've been in some situations where you've had to rely on yourself, and there weren't really any other people. There wasn't anyone to help you. I'm also seeing like you've opened the jaws of life and looked straight at your greatest fears, and you're like, yeah, so what? Which is amazing. And you've like, you kind of realized, I think you have strength that is hidden that you didn't realize. The contextualizing card is justice. So this contextualizes the inner thoughts and fears. So you're gonna realize that this situation that you're in, which is like a struggle, and maybe like even like a life or death struggle, or like maybe you're like in a survival situation, as I keep saying, you're gonna realize that there's circumstances that put you here that were out of your control, and there's gonna be justice because those circumstances are going to change, whether it be by some other force or by your own will, your own sheer will. Because I'm relating that to how we had the strength card. That really, not every card comes up in every reading. That's a very specific energy. I'm gonna get one more card, and then I'm gonna switch to the Kim Krantz. We got death again. When we get the same cards multiple times, I like to think it's spirit speaking really loud. This is just upright now. You really need to let go of some of this, spirit, what do we need to let go of? We need to let go of weakness, actually, of the feeling that like you can't do it. You need to lean into your power, because actually it's a mental thing for your survival in this situation. You must, Viktor Frankl says, or said when he was in the concentration camps, the quote, I'm going to paraphrase it. It's basically, you can take everything from me. You can take my dignity, you can take my life, you can take my home, my profession. I don't know how he phrases it, but you can't take my thoughts. So that's it. I control that. So it's about how, and he writes a lot in his book about the Holocaust. It's a great title. I forget what it's called, but I think it's too dramatic for me to remember, but it's Viktor Frankl, look it up. It's really about overcoming anything, that your mindset can overcome anything. Wheel of Fortune. Okay. Just trust that your energy of thinking good things can happen for me. I know it may be really hard right now, but you have to trust me. There's good fortune coming. I'm for some reason thinking of Matthew, and when he says in his scripture, or in his, is it the gospel? He says, first ask, then knock again. So it's like a 3-part process. Or the asking is really like, what do I actually need? And then making that conscious within yourself. And then the knocking is, God, please help me with this. And then the knocking again is, God, I really need help with this. And it's okay, in our prayer to pinpoint what we need. because I think it sends out, instead of, because some people say you should always just be giving thanks. That's good too. But I think that there is someone listening on the other end, and that pinpoints the energy of your needs. The Temple. So I don't have the book, it got destroyed, I'm gonna buy a new one, but I know I pretty much memorized what all these mean. It's a Kim Krantz deck, archetypes. So I feel like there may be like some part of yourself that's sacred within that you're discovering now. It sounds funny because I don't think the people watching this are children, but like I think it's been a long time coming, like you may be like middle-aged like me, like I'm 38, I'm gonna be 39 at the end of this year, and like you're just like realizing stuff about your power, and really I want to also read this as like the temple of the body, that like maybe you're just now really healing in some intense way, and also just body, mind, spirit here. The One. Yeah, I feel like connection with God right now, connection with source, divine energy is actually going to help you get out of this situation. And I think with the Tear, you've actually been through a lot emotionally, and I think you're actually in a more detached place. I'm also thinking of the Eye of Fatima here, which is from Islam, or from Arabic cultures. It's really just the evil eye, but it's supposed to like ward off evil. Actually, it's like there's the hand of Fatima, and then there's the eye, the evil eye of protection that wards off. Also reminding myself of the Kabbalah bracelet. I used to wear the Kabbalah bracelet, but my ex stole it from me. I mean, not literally. He started wearing it, and I just didn't order a new one. It's a it's a bracelet about protection. Also in witchcraft, you can make your own, or Wicca, as I like to call it, just so you know I'm not worshiping the devil. You can make your own bracelet, knotted red thread bracelet for protection. I'm sensing a need for the feeling of protection, and I'm also sensing you're a non-violent person who you don't want to keep guns. You don't want. I don't believe in any weapons because I think that attracts something to us. I believe much more in like totems of power, and some people will disagree with me and think that makes you vulnerable if you think, oh, I need this to be okay. I totally disagree. I find the most power in this right here. This cost me $1. This is my rosary. Okay, not ashamed to admit I'm a Catholic. Okay, so the gem reversed. So I feel like I'm just getting that somebody actually sees you as a hidden gem, and I think that they feel like very disappointed in what happened between you. Oh, and the Lovers. So since they're all reversed, I'll just read them as upright, actually. So the Maiden, the Lovers, and the Gem. So people always say this is about a choice point. Am I going to be, in love or not? Am I going to choose this or not? It's also Gemini card. Maybe you were in a situation where, you were sort of innocent with the Maiden here, in love, and you realize actually, and someone realized actually in your absence that you are a hidden gem. Yes, this reading's changing. I think that there's two parts. That A, you're in like a sort of really tough situation in your life that you don't know what to do, and it may be like dire survival situation, or you're recovering from a like traumatic event. Like, maybe I'm just thinking of like, maybe you were assaulted, maybe you fell and almost died, maybe, just anything, even just being robbed is like terrifying. Like, I'm sensing some sort of like physical body unsafeness here. And then part two is I'm sensing someone else who you're not in their life anymore, and they are sort of wondering how you're doing and feeling the absence and feeling that your boundaries have changed. This person is a child, has a childlike essence. And I know that reverse, this can mean hurts without meaning to. So I feel like I'm just getting that energy that whoever this was, like, they behaved like a child, okay? But it also, you shared a childlike sort of innocence with them, and like sort of unique, naive experience. The Ocean. I'm reading this as being held by something greater than you, which could be really important for you right now. Like, you know, it seems like there's people with those cards that we just got. There's actually, I think, multiple people who are either exes or people you've known, or even family members who are looking in to see if you're okay. And I think maybe you're withdrawing because you don't really want them to know. Because you're going through some deep, private healing that may involve complete isolation, is what I'm getting. We got the nectar. Yeah, I can't help but I have to add, you know, just think about bees here with the nectar. If the bees go, we all go is a common ism for, it's a common saying for environmentalists. Like, once the bees go, we all go, which means that, you know, when the bees aren't pollinating anymore, it's a really bad sign for the environment in terms of like things on the totem pole, and that they you know, they do a lot for the flowers, and that's a really bad sign. So I think that you're actually thinking about your own mortality, which I want you to get out of that actually a little bit, because that's great to have that awareness, but I think it's coming right now from a scared place because of what you've been through. And yeah, the Bardo, you're thinking a lot about death and like this heavy stuff, really heavy stuff. There may be someone in your life who's dying or ill, or in conjunction with your experience that you've had, that seems to have made you realize how fleeting and fragile life is. I'm also getting there may be someone that you knew who recently died, and you may be subconsciously very obsessed with it, because the Bardo can relate in my mind to Pluto, which can be about obsession. The Queen. I think you're handling all of this actually really well. Whether you're a man or a woman, you're handling it like really well. I'm thinking of in chess how the Queen like basically guards the king, and like she can do all of the moves. Actually, she can do. So I think that you have to realize your shape-shifting power. For some reason, I'm thinking of the show, I think it's just called Shapeshifter. It's like a Stephen King drama series. I'm a huge fan of Stephen King. You know, the interesting thing about that is the shapeshifter lives in a cave. I think you may feel like you're in an inner cave of self-awareness right now, and I'm feeling other people, not just living people, but like people who've passed on, looking in on you, and like ancestors, and I want you to know you're protected. So I'm feeling some relief here. I think that maybe that helped you a little. You are protected from, you know, this experience, and also the people that you've maybe seen fall ill, or the person that you lost. They're meant to teach you, yes, the shadow, life is precious, shadow of life, that we are alive, but I want you to come into some lightness here, because that's also the message that Spirit is telling me, that you've gotten that message clear, loud and clear. You get it. Life is fleeting, and now it's time to come out of that sort of frozen Four of Swords that we got in the beginning, where you maybe you maybe weren't processing it. You may be afraid for your own things. I want to like snap you out of that, because the Pilgrim, you're actually on a pilgrimage here. Pilgrim's Progress is a book I'm thinking of, which is really old, from like, I think it's from like the 16 or 1700s. Anyway, I could be wrong, could be a little later. It was definitely read by transcendentalists in the late 1880s as a point of interest, but I don't think it was written during that time period. But it's also mentioned in Little Women, which, I mean, the book, I don't know if they mentioned it in the movie. I read almost all of Louisa May Alcott when I was a kid. Okay, and so, sorry, I had this kind of mind. I'm now thinking of Louisa May Alcott and her life and her history, and actually I just want you to know a little bit about her, so that maybe you can change your perspective on your experience. Because I'm getting a little bit of a feeling like it's not only the sort of fear of death, but it's also like you need to put the focus on your passions here, okay? Because those external things may not change. We as in the external, we spirit, I'm speaking for spirit, we can feel that you are like, gotta change this. But Spirit's saying also focus on the power that you do have, which, so Louisa May Alcott actually grew up in like what they would call a sort of genteel poverty. Her father was an intellectual. They had a nice house, but they often went to bed hungry because the dad refused to work like a normal job. He did lectures for like just ad hoc throughout the community and was paid whenever he got paid. And then when they didn't have money, they just were in poverty, the whole family, and really struggled. And people don't know that much about her life in terms of how that was for her upbringing. And then as time went on, she actually was a seamstress for many years, and she moved around, lived in New York, moved back to Massachusetts. She really was not well off, but she kept writing as the focus for her life. And I also want to talk about Herman Melville, who was a banker. Not a banker, I think he was a taxes, and spent so much time on his masterpiece Moby Dick, and I believe lived in squalor at some points of his life. Okay, and last, I'm thinking of the poet, oh boy, I can't think of his name. He writes about sort of bar brawls and stuff. It's too bad, I think I'll write it below, but it's sort of like a Polish sounding name. Bukowski, Charles Bukowski. I'm not sure if that's Polish, maybe Russian or like Eastern European, but he actually, I believe, was a postal worker his whole life, or most of it. And oh man, what a great writer. But the poems are so conversational, and they're just sort of about this stuff we're talking about. He was a heavy writer who was worried about strife and death and pain and bar brawls as being sort of like a metaphor for all of that specifically. And he wrote in sort of like an expressive, non-linear style. And I'm mentioning him here and all these sort of like artists who had sort of different lifestyles because, the road is not always clear. The path is not always clear. I believe Louisa May Alcott also worked at a cotton mill at one point in her life. I could be wrong about that. But I do want to get, one final closing card from Spirit for just, what you're going through and honoring it, what we need to know. We got the pilgrim again. So you're definitely on a Mecca or a pilgrimage to Mecca, which would be a holy place, or a quest. And I feel like you're not settled. You're traveling. Maybe you're like mobile. Maybe you're in like on a journey, like literally you're going places. Maybe you travel for work. Okay, we got the riddle. I just want to close that like all of life really is a riddle, and it's sort of like, I was listening to this musician Kaki King the other day just talk about music, and she's a favorite of mine for a long time, and like how you really only learn and know music in the moment, like because I'm a musician. I play 3 instruments. I play banjo, guitar, and ukulele, and I sing, and like it's all like, to create a rhythm you have to create an off rhythm. And you can like play with that, and it's all in the moment, and in terms of like how your hands are moving, how you it's improvised is what I'm trying to say. You can know a song and play it a million times, but the way you play it changes, right? Based on your mood, based on your focus, based on your agility in your fingers that day, based on how many times you played recently, muscle memory. So it's kind of like that in your life right now. It's kind of like, the instrument, but it's like, I want you to like play it in a way that's better for you. And the instrument is your life. And I feel like you're not seeing like you've been in this situation before. You've been in this absolutely before. And I want you to think of how. How could this be a repeat of something that's happened? And how could this be something possibly that's happened multiple times? You know, and don't judge yourself for that. Think of how, you know, how the universe was formed, how the Big Bang came from nothing, how the sperm that beats the other sperm is the one that's born, and the statistic anomaly that is. So I guess I'm saying don't give up here. Like, you have to think outside the box. And I know that sounds so easy, like when people are in crisis situations, which is what I'm getting in this reading, and that there's people worried about you and you're not letting them in. I'm also getting to stay in your box. So it's kind of weird. It's like, think outside the box, but you know, protect yourself, because you have been through some sort of scary thing. The box could be just a protective box of safety that you imagine. And yeah, wow, thanks, Spirit. That was a really intense reading. I think that mostly the message for you, I'm seeing an image of a squirrel, actually. I'm seeing a family of squirrels. I think I'm seeing a black squirrel. Okay, so that's a rare thing, a black squirrel. So you may be very rare, and you need to realize that about yourself, that rare people have rare lives and rare situations happening to them. And with that, see the silver lining that something magical could happen, you know. Now I'm thinking of the Grateful Dead song with it's called Touch of Grey, and it says, with every silver lining is a touch of gray, which is true. And I guess that came from Jerry Garcia's spirit, because I was connecting with him this week. Yes, I'm out there like that. Yeah, I think that Jerry Garcia would want you to know that, like, you know, to just sort of like use the tool that you have and go from there. And his tool was guitar. I don't know what yours is. And by the way, he had a missing finger from an accident when he was a child. If he can become an amazing famous musician with, he could have just said, F it, you know what, I don't have that finger, I don't want people to see my finger, or I don't want to do this because it's too challenging. He was like, oh no, this is actually my passion, I have to do this. So the finger for you could, like, that, it's like a symbolic, metaphorical finger. It's almost like whatever happened here is pointing you toward your destiny.